I'm 41, and I just found out that my wife Claire, 39, has been living a double life for the past 4 years. We've been married for 11 years, we have 2 kids together, Lily 9 and Jacob 7, and until a few months ago, I thought we had a fairly normal marriage. Then everything unraveled. It started 3 months ago. Claire's phone died, and she asked to use mine to call a work friend, to cover a shift. She punched in the number from memory, made the call, and handed my phone back. She must have forgotten to clear the recent calls, because later I noticed the contact name. Tristan husband with a heart emoji. My stomach sank. I checked her social media from my account, nothing suspicious. But then I remembered she had once mentioned making a LinkedIn profile for networking. I searched, and 2 accounts came up. One was Claire Fitzgerald, with my last name, listing the job I thought she had. The other was Claire Morrison, using her maiden name. And that profile showed her as a regional sales director living 4 hours away. It even said she was married. The photo stopped me cold. Claire, in a wedding dress I had never seen, standing beside another man. That man was Tristan Morrison, and he was very real. He owns a construction company. Property records showed they had bought a house together 2 months after our 7th anniversary. My wife had not only married another man, but had been maintaining a second household. What blew my mind was the logistics. Claire travels a lot for work, or so she told me. She would leave Monday mornings, supposedly to meet clients. In reality, she drove 4 hours and stayed with Tristan and their family. She spent Mondays and Wednesdays with him, then came back to me on Wednesday nights, claiming to be exhausted from travel. Fridays were her work-from-home days with us. Every other weekend, she said she had regional meetings, but that time was really spent with them. She and Tristan even had twins together, 3 years old. I couldn't process this without proof, so I hired a private investigator. He dug into her background and discovered she had stolen the identity of someone who had died as a child, using it to get a separate social security number, driver's license, and full-blown second identity. She had built 2 separate lives, complete with 2 sets of insurance policies and tax benefits. For 2 weeks, I sat on this information. I saved everything: copies of the LinkedIn pages, property records, the PI's full report. I even drove to Tristan's house one Tuesday and saw her car parked in the driveway. I took photos. Last Sunday, Claire was in the kitchen making breakfast, laughing at something on her phone. I asked what was so funny, and she casually said, "Oh, Tristan just sent me a video of the twins singing happy birthday to his mom. They're so funny at this age." She said it without hesitation, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I looked at her and asked, "Who's Tristan?" She froze for a moment, then quickly said he was just a colleague. I pressed again. "Claire, who's Tristan?" She tried to brush it off, but her face gave her away. Then she actually laughed. She laughed and said, "Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag. This is my second family now." I stood there stunned. She acted like she was telling me about a new car she'd bought, not admitting to years of deception. I told her she was married to another man. She smirked and said, "Technically, it's not fully legal since I used different documents." I reminded her that meant she had committed both identity theft and bigamy. She rolled her eyes and said I was overreacting, that she loved both families, and that she wasn't abandoning anyone, just expanding her life. I told her this was a federal crime. She smiled and said it would only be a problem if someone reported it. "And why would you do that?" she asked. "Think of Lily and Jacob. Do you want their mother in prison?" The complete lack of remorse floored me. She actually thought she had done nothing wrong. I asked if Tristan knew about me. She admitted he didn't, that he believed she was a regional director who traveled constantly. She told me I should be more appreciative because it was exhausting to maintain 2 households. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed up Lily and Jacob, took them to my mother's house, and told Claire we needed space. Since then, she has sent me dozens of texts, accusing me of being close-minded and breaking up our family over nothing. But I couldn't keep this to myself. Tristan deserved to know. Despite advice from some people telling me not to, I contacted him. I wrote an email and included everything: the marriage certificate, family photos from the past 11 years, and all the proof I had collected. Within an hour of me kicking Claire out, My phone rang. It was him, Tristan. His voice was broken, the sound of a man who had just had his world ripped apart. He told me he'd thought Claire was the love of his life. They'd been married for 4 years, had twins together, and were even trying for another baby. He mentioned she was supposed to be at a conference in Denver that week. I had to tell him the truth. She wasn't in Denver, she'd been at home with me and our kids. Until 3 days ago, when I told her to leave. We compared stories. The timelines, the lies, the excuses. Everything matched. She hadn't just been lying to us, she'd built an entire false life. She had fake business cards, a fabricated LinkedIn profile with bogus colleagues endorsing her, and an entire fictional career to explain her disappearances. Tristan's hurt quickly gave way to rage. "I'm going to ruin her," he said. "Get in line," I answered. We decided to work together. File police reports, push for divorce and annulment, exchange evidence. But Claire wasn't about to go down quietly. She tried flipping the script. She came to my workplace in the middle of the day, right in front of my colleagues, and put on a show. She told them I was unraveling, that I'd imagined this elaborate story about her living a double life. "Brett's been under so much stress," she said sweetly to Diane, one of my coworkers. "I think he's having a breakdown. He's convinced himself I have another husband." I pulled out my phone and handed it to Diane. There was Claire, in a wedding dress, standing next to Tristan. "This is my mental breakdown," I said. Claire's mask cracked immediately. "That's from a modeling job," she insisted. "A commercial shoot." "Where you signed a marriage certificate?" I asked. Her grip tightened around my arm. "We need to talk alone." "No," I told her. "We're past talking." That's when the tears started. Big, messy, attention-grabbing sobs. She wailed about how I could do this to her, how our children needed their mother. "They need a mother who isn't a criminal," I shot back. Her face hardened. "You think you're perfect? You think you're better than me? I gave you 11 years. I gave you 2 kids. And this is how you repay me." "You gave me half of 11 years, I said coldly. "The other half you gave to Tristan. And you didn't give. You split yourself in 2. The other teachers just stood there, stunned. She had essentially admitted everything out loud. That afternoon, I filed my police report: identity theft, bigamy, fraud. The detective flipped through my documents, shaking his head. "In 20 years I've never seen anything like this," he muttered. Meanwhile, Tristan escalated. He hired a forensic accountant. What they uncovered was worse. She had been taking out loans, credit cards, even a car lease under her fake identity, all tied back to his home address. Then came the breaking point: Claire's arrest. Before that, though, she made desperate moves. She went to my mother's house with the kids, crying, saying I was destroying our family. My mom, bless her, kept her cool, and recorded the entire thing on her phone. "Claire," my mom said, "you married another man." "That's just paperwork," Claire pleaded. "The heart wants what it wants. And the law wants what the law wants too," my mom replied. After me, she tried Tristan's family. His sister called me later, furious. Claire had shown up at her workplace begging her to convince Tristan to back off. She claimed she was pregnant with his baby and needed support. Only problem? Tristan had gotten a vasectomy after their twins. She had no idea because she'd been too busy with her other life to notice. Finally, it all caught up with her. There was already a warrant out. She went to Tristan's house to collect her things, supervised by police. But instead of letting her go inside, they cuffed her right there in the driveway. Tristan's doorbell camera captured it all. Her screaming, thrashing, accusing us of jealousy. "You can't handle a strong woman living her truth," she shrieked as they hauled her away. The charges weren't small. Identity theft, wire fraud, mail fraud, tax fraud, bigamy, and a list of federal crimes I couldn't even pronounce. Claire's double life had finally collapsed, and this time, there was no escaping it. Her lawyer tried reaching out to mine, hoping to strike some kind of bargain. The offer was laughable. If I agreed to drop the charges and convince Tristan to do the same, she'd walk away quietly and give me full custody of the kids. My lawyer just shook his head. Claire wasn't in any position to negotiate. She was staring down more than 20 years in federal prison. The FBI had stepped in since the case crossed state lines, and they uncovered far more than anyone expected. Claire had been juggling not just 2 marriages, but also 3 additional half-built identities. She had credit cards, apartment leases, and even a sugar daddy dating profile under her belt. Her parents bailed her out, scraping together a $100,000 bond by putting up their house. And then Claire made the most reckless choice possible. She went live on Facebook for 18 minutes. In her bizarre monologue, she ranted about how women were forced to fragment themselves, claimed she was blazing the trail for a new kind of relationship, and argued monogamy was nothing more than a prison designed by men. She even called Tristan and me out by name, mocking us as weak for not appreciating her so-called gift. That video turned out to be her undoing. The prosecutor slapped on additional charges for witness tampering, and the judge revoked her bail. She's been sitting in jail ever since. The final chapter came quickly. Claire took a plea deal. 8 years in federal prison, parole possible after 5. She was forced to give up all assets she'd gained through fraud, roughly $200,000 worth. Both of her marriages were annulled, and she permanently lost her parental rights. Her sentencing was surreal. She came to court in a plain, conservative outfit, trying to look like the perfect suburban mother who had simply made a few mistakes. Her lawyer painted her as someone overwhelmed by emotions and poor judgment. But then the prosecution played the Facebook Live video, and all that image building collapsed in an instant. The judge shook his head in disbelief, telling her that in 30 years on the bench, he had seen a lot of inventive criminal schemes, but hers was unmatched in sheer audacity. When it was Claire's turn to speak, she didn't offer even the faintest apology. Instead, she doubled down. She claimed she had nothing to regret because she was simply doing what men had always done, keeping multiple families, having mistresses. She said her only crime was trying to make everyone happy by loving too much. The judge, unimpressed, tacked on another 6 months to her sentence for her blatant lack of remorse. Oddly enough, through all this, Tristan and I became unlikely friends. We grab a beer now and then, swap stories about recovering from this insanity. His twins are still young enough that they hardly remember her, which is probably for the best. My kids are older, angry and hurt, but their therapist tells me they're resilient. Claire's parents even sent me a letter apologizing, explaining that this wasn't the first time she'd pulled something like this. Back in college, she had been engaged to 3 men at once, scamming each of them for money toward wedding plans. Her parents had bailed her out then too, paying the men back quietly. Prosecutors have since tracked down more victims. A man who paid her tuition for nursing school she never attended, and another she convinced to hand over $30,000 for her mother's cancer treatment. Her mother, of course, had never been sick. Now she's being sued left and right, by banks, credit card companies, and even the woman whose identity she stole. That woman is very much alive, just living overseas. And still, Claire hasn't changed. Last week, I got a letter from her in prison asking me to put money into her commissary account because the food is terrible, and she has dietary restrictions. The entitlement is unbelievable. Tristan got a letter too. He actually framed his and hung it in his garage as a reminder to trust his instincts in the future. Meanwhile, life is moving forward. My kids are slowly healing, starting to see Claire's imprisonment not as abandonment, but as a consequence of lies. My daughter once asked me if her mom was sorry. I told her the truth. Some people don't know how to be sorry, they only know how to be caught. I've even started dating again, though carefully. I joke with friends that my new first date question is, "So any other families I should know about?" But deep down, Claire taught me a lasting lesson. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them. Don't wait for pretty words or excuses. She revealed her true self the morning she laughed in my face about her second family. That wasn't confusion or poor judgment. That was her nature. Tristan is rebuilding too. Strangely, the publicity helped his business. Clients see him as trustworthy precisely because he was so openly scammed. It shows he's honest. A strange silver lining. Claire will face her first parole hearing in 5 years, but neither Tristan nor I plan on showing up. We're done. She's just a story now. A warning we sometimes retell with disbelief. The so-called second family she flaunted? Both of us walked away. Both of us better off without her. In the end, first place and second place both won. Because when the prize is a federal crime, the only real victory is freedom. For those curious, yes, our kids have met once. We arranged a casual meetup at a park. It was awkward, but manageable. They're technically half-siblings after all, though none of this is their fault. Their mother may have wanted to play mastermind, but what she left behind is just a tangled mess we're all learning to untangle, together, without her.